Well, hello everybody and greetings from here in Limerick from Michelle, Dad and I. We are the Mulcahy Family and we're delighted to bring you some music as part of the Milwaukee Irish Music Festival 2021. Of course, we're celebrating Temple Bar Trad Festival and we're bringing this online concert to you in partnership with the Temple Bar Trad Fest. So we're going to start with a couple of jigs. Dad, what will we start with?
The first one is the Shaskian, the second one is the Pride Rock Chapel, and the third one is Killiglass Lakes.
Join us. We're coming to you from Limerick. We're going to continue with a couple of reels this time. The first one is called The High Road to Galway. The second one is called The Drunken Landlady. And the third one is called
The Thrush in the Storm.
The Thrush in the Storm. So we're sending our best wishes to you no matter where you're tuning in from.
Milwaukee Festival, so we hope you're enjoying the music in whatever part of the world that you are in. So we're going to bring you to County Clare now for the next couple of hornpipes, and these tunes were composed by the wonderful fiddle player Junior Crehan, and the first tune is called Cashlan and Or, and the second one then is called Mayball. Which is called Tourism de Love, which was written in the 17th century by Rory Dal O'Cahan, and is one of the great anthems of the Irish harp. So, and this piece was composed after Rory Dal visited Lady Eglinton while he was travelling in Scotland, and I suppose the tune arose out of Lady Eglinton apologised to Rory Dal when he visited her home, and when she asked who was upon her doorstep. So with that he took offence, and but this is the beautiful tune that arose out of that, I suppose, miscommunication. So this is Tourism de Love.
Linn, master piper, iconic figure in Irish traditional music, but he's left a great legacy to the Irish traditional music archive and to na P. as well, and I'm very fortunate that this is a very special set of pipes that Liam O'Flynn once played and recorded on, and I'm very thankful to na P. who have given me this beautiful set of pipes to play. So we're going to play 3 reels. The first one is Mulcahy,
the second one is Traverse, and great favourite, the third one is the Silver Spear.
And we'd like to dedicate these, of course, to Liam O'Flynn's memory. Tune called
Idea from Portlaw, and the second one is a composition of Peter Brown's Plaint. The next set we'll do now is Clanksty Davis and Tutorials. The first one is Queen of the May and the second one is Johnny Henry's Real.
Which is called The Rose and the Heather. The second one is called The Clavel Jig, and the last one is associated with the wonderful piper Jameson, and it's called An Bucklin Bui.
for you. We've enjoyed being back together again. It's been a long year and a half, but every opportunity that we have that we can play together and be reunited is always a happy occasion for us. But we look forward to meeting you hopefully in Milwaukee, and if not in Milwaukee, hopefully at the Temple Bar TradFest in 2022.
Wishing everybody the best, and stay safe and mind yourselves, and hopefully we'll see you all in Milwaukee soon. So we're going to finish off with a couple of reels there.
3 reels. So the first one is the Galway Rambler, second one is Patsy to his, and the third one is the New Road to Lehan.
Hello.
Hello there.
Good evening. We are the Ocelots. I'm Brandon.
I'm Ashley. My name is Ashley.
We are twins. We come from Wexford in Ireland. And we're very happy to play the Milwaukee Irish Festival.
We're currently playing from Leipzig in Germany.
This is where we're currently based.
In my bedroom, which is quite intimate, I think.
Yes. These walls have been our walls for... the walls of music for the last... Since Corona, this has been our workspace.
The walls of life.
So you're getting us where the music, most of these songs will play to you, were written. Yeah, the foundation place.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
exactly.
Okay, we're gonna start off with a song called Motor Hotel. It's a song written on the way from East Australia to West Australia in a camper van.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna kick
Here
it
it
off.
goes.
A few songs for you. All right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
walls, an old carousel. Colored horses have changed into shirts that they've stained. The room's clientele holds an old man that swells when he can't drink his way, when the roads just run straight. But is it just the same as it always was? Can we love the way that we always love? Can we turn the page in our open book? Can we find the strays with a stroke of luck? Is it just the same as it always was? Can we find the wind blowing through the doorway? Tall gum trees are gold beneath us. The watership down passes through all the town. The stars on the flag shine for those who can brag. The darker I turn as my thoughts become a burden, I think of my home and the bridge that I'm burning. But is it just the same as it always was? Can we love the way that we always loved? Can we turn the page in our open book? Can we find the strays with a stroke of luck? Is it just the same as it always was? Can we find the wind blowing through the doorway? Tall gum trees are gold beneath us. Let's place it into old. 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 We'll figure it out. What to figure it out. What to do. Figure it out. Let's place it into old. 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 Figure it out. Figure it out. Figure it out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was called The Motor Hotel. Okay, so we're going to play a new song for you guys that we wrote during the winter. It's called Time We Need to Decide. A Time We Need to Decide. And we just actually finished it to put on a new record. We just came out of a recording studio in Munich a few weeks ago.
It's going to be on
So this
an EP.
this one will be released very soon. We wrote this one together. And yeah, it's a great one to sing.
It's fun.
It's fun. Okay, hope you like it.
Fun and sad. It's fun because it's sad.
1, 2.
While we raise the stakes, is it fine to count my cards? I've only got jokers in my hand. And while we sit around the table talking of ourselves, Can I stop all the noise inside my head? And as we sit and listen to the rolling noise of cars on cobblestone, it's the time we need to take our different roads. And as we stop and talk about it with whatever cards we find, it's the time we need to decide. It's the time we need to decide. It's the time we need to decide. And while we chug on wine, is it right to say I'm fine? I thought a stone's throw is shorter when it's over my shoulder. Play different games, but with all the cards the same. I thought a joker and all his suit of hearts would tide me over. And as we sit and listen to the rolling noise of cars on cobblestone, it's the time we need to take our different roads. And as we stop and talk about it with whatever cards we find, it's the time we need to decide. 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 It's the time we need to decide.
Coolabola.
That was that song. Next song we're going to play is called The Switch. The Switch is and remains to be an old song of ours because her time has passed in these current states of the world where time passes. We should just sell our watches. But this song was written when we were in a very hardcore touring mode where we just had concerts almost every day in some sort of tiny place or big place, and it was awfully intense and mostly in Germany. So we didn't have any creature comforts at hand. No. And yeah, this is a little something that came out of it.
This song is on our last record that we released.
Although my plectrum has disappeared. There it is.
It's -6 in the sticks of nowhere. We're finding ourselves out. The clock, it ticks as the snow, it slips from the rooftops all around. The train goes by like a lullaby, singing our children children's ears. And I'll see you sink like a broken ship the day you leave comes near. The city's weeping while we are sleeping, the cover's falling while we are talking. I wanna kiss you and I never wanna stop, and I can't find the switch to turn everything off. I can't find the switch to turn everything off. I can't find the switch to turn everything off right now. The words they go as the weeks run slow, and we sing till they reappears. A packed suitcase in my heart will race when you whisper in my ear. The beast it waits in the garden gates, and it hides the pages green. But it never finds your patient mind behind the eyes of blue that scream. The city's weeping while we aren't sleeping, the cover's falling while we are talking. Now I wanna kiss you and I never wanna stop, but I can't find the switch to turn everything off. I can't find the switch to turn everything off. I can't find the switch to turn everything off right now. Oh, you are the turning off the page, the sign that we're chasing from our age. Oh, the sound of our shoes drifting through the snow. The roads are closed, they'll never let us go. The roads are closed, they'll never let us go. The roads are closed, they'll never let us go. The roads are closed, they'll never let us go. The roads are closed, they'll never let us go.
Cool. Cool, that was the switch. That guitar is compliments that,
Yeah, hey.
doesn't it? What colours in the dark?
Okay. All right. I hope you're all keeping well, enjoying
Yeah,
the
thank you.
festival.
Thank you for listening
Yes.
to us. We know it's difficult through this medium
Yes.
to share some love, but we're bringing it to you. It's a DHL delivery. It's
I think it's not. Well, what's the
FedEx.
FedEx.
We're FedExing you some passion and love and good vibes, as they say in Germany.
Okay, the next song we're going to sing is Colours in the Dark. Now, this song is a song about growing up in Ireland in a very Christian place where you have to pray all the time when you're 5 years old. And
Yeah, in the
at 5 years old, you're responsible enough to pick your own God, I think.
I think so.
Yeah. And it's just madness that it's just like a pre-packaged thing if you go to school.
Even if you wanted to be a farmer, all you got was Christian Bales. Anyway,
That was bad. That man. Okay, this song is called Colours in the Dark. It's about shoving your hands into your eyes and watching the light show instead of praying when you're a kid. 1 second. Let me get geared up. Okay.
Axl Rose on banjo. Repeat.
gave me a warning, you gave me your light. You said only if you pick it up and pour into your eyes. I used to swallow the darkness with my palms against her face and squeeze it so tight I would start seeing shapes. What do they know about my God? 'Cause they told me about theirs at school. I see colours in the dark, so I must play my part. Can you see colours in the darkness too? Ooh, oh. Oh, but meanwhile I'm seeing green, watching them chew their sleeves, bruises on their knuckles from chestnut trees. Oh, and what did they think we knew? We had shit on our indoor shoes. We don't have a clue who we're praying to. What do they know about my God? 'Cause they told me about theirs at school. I see colours in the dark, so I must play my part. Can you see colours in the darkness too? Ooh, oh. Oh, and your light didn't come up from my bedroom window. I blame the season, oh, its blackberries grow. But then it was September, and then you weren't there. I was drawn with an arrow to a shade of despair. What do they know about my God? 'Cause they told me about theirs at school. I see colours in the dark, so I must play my part. Can you see colours in the darkness too? Ooh, oh. Oh, but I was in a hurry to share all my stories of when the teachers were preaching, and I wasn't worried. I swallow the darkness with my palms over my eyes, squeeze it so tight I would start seeing lights. What do they know about my God? 'Cause they told me about theirs at school. I see colours in the dark, so I must play my part. Can you see colours in the darkness too?
Thank you. That was Colours in the Dark. Alright, I think we have Wild Dogs and Coyotes.
Wild Dogs.
Yes.
So, to introduce this song, I would firstly and foremostly say that it's a ballad to my childhood dog, and it's also a weird mesh of memories and references that dribbled into my subconscious and dribbled further into my conscious and onto the page. And one of those is that one of the lyrics, if I could say, is that I used to walk my dog listening to Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon when every single day, and I used to walk down the stairs to our beach because we lived up on top of a cliff, and there was a long stairs, and my dog used to run down there. It's a very big dog, and she had no grace when she ran down the stairs. She just sort of fell with style.
Okay. This is going to be on our new record as well. It's called Wild Dogs and Coyotes. 1, 2, 3, 4.
My shadow makes footprints in the path. Then I saw them on my way over the clouds, going out to face the flare. You ran right down the stairs, not too far away from a step down. And it's a boat on the dune won't save you, and a sunstroke in the sun won't burn you. We're a lifeline on this forest fire, you and me. We're the difference between wild dogs and coyotes. By the waves with her it appeared we were alone, but the hill up there was the incandescent glow. And if life was shone too soon on the dark side of the moon, I know you'll still be here to let me know. Oh, and it's a boat on the dune won't save you, and a sunstroke in the sun won't burn you. We're a lifeline on this forest fire, you and me. We're the difference between wild dogs and coyotes. And a tugboat on the dune won't save you, and a sunstroke in the sun won't burn you. We're a lifeline on this forest fire, you and me. We're the difference between wild dogs and coyotes. Oh, we're the difference between wild dogs and coyotes. Oh, we're the difference between wild dogs and coyotes.
Thank Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was called Wild Dogs and Coyotes.
Indeed it was.
Yes. And wherever you're coming from, I hope you're keeping well in this time. In this,
Hope you're getting on grand.
Yeah. Washing your hands, eating vegetables, making bacon bread.
Getting your B12.
Yeah. So
Your vitamin D.
we have one more song for you that we're going to do. It's called, can't even say her name, All Rolling Good. Thank you to Milwaukee Irish Festival again for having us, and hopefully we can get there in the flesh someday.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Here it goes.
You had me once and I won't have you back. I'm just trying to be good. I'm trying to hold back. I thought we could fix it. We're filling the cracks, just hold it together and keep it on track. But I can't even say your name. I can't even say your name. I can't even say your name. You told me the rules so I won't act a fool. You tell me don't cry, I don't know what to do. I can't even smile about what we've been through. No, I can't even say your name. 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 She gave me a reason to smile every day. You gave me a kiss to make it all okay. Without you, babe, I just ain't the same. No, I ain't. I can't even say your name. 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 Oh, no. But you had me once and I won't hit you back. I'm just trying to be good. Trying to hold back. I thought we could fix it. We're filling the cracks, just hold it together and keep it on track. But I can't even say your name. 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 Oh Lord. Ooh, Lord.
Thank you. We've been the Ocelots.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of the festival.
Yeah, have a great day wherever you are.
It was the train to Connolly Station, the station of the bleeding Scotsman that died for Ireland, and then cross over Gardner Street by Talbot Street that wore the chains, next 9 inches skin, and into Marlborough Street and up past the Pro Cathedral where they laid out the murdered body of Michael Collins, God help us.
And I did watch her dance. She didn't make any mistakes anyway, thank God. She danced well, and that's all she can do, and that's what I said to her.
My name is Barry Stapleton. I'm the director of the Ward Irish Music Archives here at Celtic MKE. You're all very welcome for joining us today. I'm with Jim Culleton, the artistic director of the award-winning Fishamble Play Company. Jim himself, amongst other awards, was named the Irish Times Director of the Year for the play The Alternative in 2020. Tell us more about yourself, Jim.
Yeah, thanks very much, Barry, and really delighted to be having this chat with you and everyone here at the Celtic MEK Festival. And lovely talking to yourself and to Patrick Fitzgibbons and the whole team there and all the great work you do. So it's lovely to have that connection. Yeah, I suppose, Fishamble is the new play company, we call ourselves. So it's a company that's dedicated to new plays. We were set up in 1988, so we're over 30 years old, and we produce new plays, we discover them, we develop them. Everything we do is kind of original, and I suppose we try to produce plays that capture, I suppose, the nature of being alive right now and what the world is like, and that deal with the kind of issues that are most pertinent. And we tour that work pre-COVID days. We were touring about 2 or 3 new productions a year, and also, I suppose, 5 or 6 productions in the repertoire to about 50 or 60 venues around Ireland, and also kind of internationally quite a lot as well. So that's all supported by the Arts Council here and Dublin City Council, and the international touring is supported by Culture Ireland. Since the pandemic that has changed a bit, obviously, but we're a busy company. We don't have a theatre venue ourselves. We just have an office with a fantastic team of people that I work with. So it gives us the ability to, I suppose, be agile and nimble and to tour work a lot. But also then when we want to, we can sort of settle into for big, large scale productions or site specific productions or whatever. So it's really a range of scales across the work, but all the plays are new. We try to do work that's urgent and dynamic and vital, that grapples with the world we live in. And we engage with audiences through discussions and with different communities through workshops and other events, and we work a lot with artists as well beyond our own productions. So we actually run a lot of workshops and courses and playwriting initiatives led by our literary manager Gavin Costick, and those initiatives actually support the writers of over half of the productions of new plays produced on the island of Ireland every year. So we're kind of a busy company, but all connected by sort of through the fact that we're dedicated exclusively to new plays.
So you do tiny plays. There have been several iterations of them. How did that idea come about?
Yeah, so I think after the economic crash in around 2007, 2008, we kind of thought, I suppose, that there was a lot of discussion about what sort of country Ireland wanted to be, what sort of society we wanted to emerge as after that crisis. And we felt as a theatre company, the theatre as an art form, can be spontaneous and react quickly and create work relatively fast. So we thought, well, let's see what we can do as a theatre company to try and reflect and deal with some of the thoughts that people are having about the kind of country we are and how we want to emerge from that. It was kind of an argument, I remember at the time, saying that we've had 800 years of being controlled by Britain, and then when we got our freedom, arguably we were controlled by the Catholic Church a lot, and then as soon as we kind of emerge from that, we're in trouble and we have to be bailed out by the European Monetary Fund and the ECB. So who are we, and how, as an independent company, what do we want to be, and how are we going to go into the future? So we called on people to share their thoughts on that with us for a project called Tiny Plays for Ireland. And we invited people to send us plays of up to 600 words about something they felt passionately about, something they felt was important to say through theatre. And we were really amazed by the fact that there's over 1,700 people submitted tiny plays to us. People often say, you know, Ireland is a country of huge creativity and there are a lot of writers. And of course, as you know well, we punch above our weight as a country internationally in terms of all the great poets and novelists and playwrights that we have, as well as musicians and visual artists and dancers. But it's still as true as ever, I think, that we're a creative nation and there are a lot of writers, and people feel, I think, you know, that it's natural to write and to express yourself through writing and through theatre or other art forms. So we got a lot of submissions, and we chose 50 of them, and we did 2 productions of those tiny plays. And I suppose it was kind of like it didn't have one authorial voice, but each production had 25 tiny plays in it. So there were 50 authorial voices, and it all came together, I suppose, as a kind of a mosaic or patchwork quilt of, you know, what Ireland was like and contemporary Ireland. And we toured them here, and we brought them as well to the Irish Arts Centre in New York and to the Kennedy Centre in Washington, DC, as part of Culture Ireland's Ireland 100 programme in 2016. And we had an amazing time producing that work. And we've revisited the tiny play model a few times since in other ways as well.
In Milwaukee, we used to have a festival of 10-minute plays. And so kind of the same thing that you're doing. And what I found about it is it's just more inclusive. It's hard for a playwright that's just getting going or emerging to do a long form play. And so I thought it was much more inclusive, and you got to see their personalities, and you could really then help and curate some of the young playwrights, I think, easier than forcing them to try and do the long form.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're absolutely right, Barry. Yeah, it's so true. I think a lot of people thought, you know, I've thought about writing a play for a while, and I keep saying I'm going to write a play, and here's a challenge now to write something that's about 4 minutes long, you know, or 10 minutes in your situation. And I think it did make people think, if I can't do this, then I'm never going to do it. So it was a real incentive to get going, and for young people and people starting off writing, it was a great thing. Now, of course, there's that saying, isn't there, that, you know, where it was said that, you know, I didn't have time to write you a short letter, so I had to write you a long letter instead. But sometimes putting things into a short form isn't necessarily, a quicker process, because every word matters. You know, it's like writing a haiku or a sonnet, I suppose, you know, can take a longer time than writing, an epic poem, perhaps, when you're poring over every single word. But there's something about it, certainly, that's an incentive to people to get down to it and to give it a try, because it is at least a compact form. So we found that people responded very well to it. I'm glad to hear they did in Milwaukee as well.
Right, great. So you mentioned that you actually don't have a theater. So you produce plays, but you don't have a physical property or anything like that. So explain that a little bit more, how that works.
Yeah, so we're an independent theatre company funded here by the Arts Council, and we produce plays. And that's kind of normal in Ireland, actually. I know in some other countries, you know, there are producing houses, and that we have some here, of course, like the Abbey and the Gate are producing houses, Druid. But most companies actually are independent of venues. So art centres and theatres operate themselves and programme work, and then companies create work and make theatre and then bring them to negotiate with the venues and the festivals and the art centres where they'll go. So it does allow us, I suppose, to do a range of work and a range of scales. Like, we're not always trying to put on plays for a 200-seater or a 500-seater or a 50-seater, you know, which I mean, it's a challenge sometimes in terms of marketing, because people don't always come and see our work in the same venue. It's not like they'll come back to the same building and see us. We move around a lot. But what we lose in that, I suppose, we gain in terms of the flexibility it gives us to respond differently to different work and to create work in different ways. So, you know, we do some site-specific work. You know, we were asked by An Post to take over the GPO, our General Post Office on O'Connell Street, on the centenary of the Easter Rising back in Easter 2016. So we were able to produce a huge work with 18 actors, you know, in the GPO on the centenary of a very important event. We have another production to mark the centenary of the Anglo-Irish Treaty, which was signed at the beginning of December 1921, coming up in the National Concert Hall, where the Irish Dáil debates took place about that negotiation. But then we can also tour work. We have some one-person plays by Pat Kinnavan that have been hugely successful for us. a one-woman show by Eva O'Connor. We have a lot of sort of 2- and 3-handers and work that can tour extensively. And we've been, all over Ireland and all over the world with a lot of those plays, touring them, off Broadway and to the West End and to Auckland and then back to Ballymun and Cork and Galway and off to the Aran Islands, or there's a festival here called the Fit Up Festival in West Cork. So you're on Sherkin Island and Hare Island, and doing a play in the parish hall, and the audience brings the pews in from the church next door and brings in their cushions and their bottles of wine, and then you do the play and they wave you off on the boat going back to the mainland afterwards. And then we're back to a big city or a big venue again with it. So it allows us to be really flexible and engage with audiences and get around and get into people's communities, really, kind of, so that theatre is very accessible and comes to people. Now that's all paused through the pandemic. I suppose we've been doing things other ways, but that's kind of that's the benefit, certainly, of not having a venue, I suppose, and being an independent company in that way.
From the plays that I saw, obviously this isn't the first time we've worked together. It's our first year kind of in partnering with you, and we've really enjoyed that. But it does seem that Fishamble doesn't shy away from controversial topics. Is this by design, and does it present problems?
Yeah, I suppose I suppose we feel that that theatre is a place where you can say taboo subjects, where you can really tease out kind of issues, where people come together as a community to explore ideas and thoughts. And so, it's a place where you can really kind of grapple with some of the darker, more difficult kind of issues that we deal with. So we have a fantastic play coming up soon by Katrina Daly called Duck Duck Goose, which is about a sexual assault. It's not really focusing on the victim or the perpetrator of the assault, but it's about the group of friends around the person who's accused, and that grey area, of nobody being in the room when the alleged offence happened, but kind of deciding where their loyalties lie. So that's kind of, that's based loosely on a number of kind of cases that have happened recently in Ireland and elsewhere. So we had a play called Maz and Bricks by Eva O'Connor that we toured in the run-up to the repeal of the 8th Amendment. We actually toured it a year beforehand, and then a year later in the month of the referendum, and the reaction was electric. Like, it was a really important issue for so many people, and I suppose we felt we were kind of creating theatre that somehow allowed people that in a way the safety of a fictional space, but where you actually could kind of, compare your thoughts to those characters on stage, see where you fitted in, and have a real kind of debate and discussion about it afterwards. It kind of brought the community together to explore these kinds of things. So we love to kind of deal with issues that are important and vital to people at the time. When we followed on from our Tiny Plays for Ireland project a few years ago that we were talking about earlier, to a kind of a play called a scheme called A Play for Ireland. And it was about trying to attract people to think about a big State of the Nation play that captured the zeitgeist of the country. And we asked for submissions for that. And we got some amazing results. So we did it as part of our 30th year celebrations in 2018. And we worked with 30 writers all over the country in 6 different venues over the course of a year, developing plays, and we produced a play from that. And Duck Duck Goose actually is another play from that initiative. But the play we produced as a result of that in 2018 was called The Alternative by Michael Patrick and Oisin Carney, and it was set in an alternative Ireland. They imagined that we got home rule back in 1914, that we never had a war of independence, that we never left the UK, and that we remained part of the UK. And we're having a referendum now in 2019 in the BBC Dublin studios, whether to leave or remain. So very similar to the Brexit situation or to the Scottish independence debates, but imagining Ireland is in that situation. And the play began with the Irish national anthem, which in this alternative world was the British anthem, God Save the Queen, but sung in the Irish language, complete with uilleann pipes and all the kind of traditional Irish instruments. So that caused quite a stir.
Neve will love. Well, she would have loved it.
She was mad for them royals, wasn't she?
She never shut up about that.
Republicans, you won't be happy until there's some moronic president desecrating Buckingham Palace. Yeah, good-looking fella, Cromwell. Handy in a civil war.
Yeah, well, now, we may see Ireland's first civil war kick off tonight if those riots outside are to go back.
Irish men killing each other, like that had ever happened.
But seriously, I mean, there's a real chance of trouble, John, and it's all in your hands. And God help us with those shoes and that tie.
What's wrong with my tie? Martha picked it out. She said it was neutral. Is it not neutral? Here, what do you think? Hang on. Blue or red? Blue? Red? Yes.
Some people stood, some people sat, some people laughed, some people got angry. We did it in Belfast, where those kind of issues are very, very pertinent. Obviously, it was electric the nights we were in the Lyric Theatre in Belfast. But a few years ago, when we took over the GPO, as I was mentioning, with Inside the GPO by Colin Murphy. That play also began with the national anthem, and we stood up at the beginning of it and sang "God Save the King," because that's it was set in 1916, and the president, Michael D. Higgins, has obviously is a poet and an artist himself, and we're very lucky to have someone like that as our president. And he's come to a lot of our productions, and he was at Inside the GPO, and we all stood up for it, and that was, but people outside on O'Connell Street didn't know there was a play going on, so all they heard was a group of people singing the British national anthem inside the GPO on the centenary of the Rising. So we had death threats and bomb threats and all sorts of things. We had the police in the sewers underneath the GPO checking for bombs. So, it was kind of, people sometimes say, oh, does theatre still have the power to shock? In the way, when you think back 100 years ago to the Abbey riots, during the plays of Sing and O'Casey, you kind of think, oh, I'm not sure theatre has quite the power to do that anymore. We're so used to film and TV, and maybe we're unshockable in lots of ways. But it's sometimes interesting when you do live performance of theatre that those moments still have the power to kind of to fire people up and get people very, very agitated. And that's a good thing, I think, because it's good for us to feel, alive and to and to be provoked sometimes by theatre as well.
So obviously around the world, pretty unusual year with the pandemic. How has the theatre company dealt with COVID?
Yeah, so I mean, we are very lucky to be funded by the Arts Council and also to have funding from the Department of Arts here and Culture Ireland and Dublin City Council. I think that's one of the great things, one of the silver linings perhaps in a very difficult year and a half with the global pandemic, that people, I'm not sure what it's like in Milwaukee or in the States in general, but I think certainly in Ireland there was a sense of people really missing the arts and culture, really feeling the lack of theatre and cinema and live music gigs and kind of realizing what a loss it was when it's been taken away. And the government here has actually been really good. I mean, the government funding in general in Ireland has been one of the lowest for the arts across Europe. We're at about 0.1% of our GDP here in Ireland, which is about a sixth of the European average. So we've been very bad here in Ireland in terms of funding the arts, which seems foolish, considering so much of our reputation abroad and internationally is based on our arts and culture, and that's how people get to know Ireland. But that has changed a bit over the last couple of years, with the government really responding well and putting more money into the arts, funding the Arts Council and other organisations to keep people going. So we've been lucky in that regard that we've been able to keep going and thrive. We've pivoted, and we've been, like lots of organisations really, we've been putting stuff online, creating new productions online. We did a version of our Tiny Plays project where we asked people to respond to life in lockdown through tiny plays, kind of as a creative writing exercise just to keep people connected. But the results of that were so good, we did an online production of those, which of course we worked with you on as well, sharing some of those with people. We've been kind of filming work. We've been we had a production last year called On Blueberry Hill, which by Sebastian Barry, our current Irish laureate for fiction. His work, I'm sure and we had a play by him on Blueberry Hill, which was on in the West End, and it had to close because of the pandemic. But we managed to film that, and we're sharing that. Actually, we'll be sharing it it'll be shared online in August with 59E59 Theatres in New York, where we produced the off-Broadway run of it in August, and then followed by a run at the Traverse Theatre in Edinburgh, and then it'll be elsewhere as well online, kind of over the late summer. We also have some plays by Pat Kinnavan. One of those plays is called Silent, which is the winner of lots of awards, including an Olivier Award, and was in New York in the Irish Arts Centre, and it's been in Los Angeles in the Odyssey Theatre, where we've done a lot of our plays on the West Coast. And we filmed that to mark the 10th anniversary, and that's recently been shown by the Odyssey and by the Irish Arts Centre, and also by Solas Nua in Washington, DC, and Corrib in Portland, Oregon. So we've been connecting with, as well as yourselves, with other kind of American partners and partners around the world to share online work. All our training and workshops have gone online. And that's been an interesting process, because people who haven't been able to get to Dublin to do courses, for instance, or for geographical reasons, or neurodiverse participants have found it really interesting to be able to kind of tune in online, as they have for lots of companies. So we've increased accessibility in a funny way for that. And also a lot of our online work that was meant for small theatres made more money at the box office, ironically, than it would have done if it had been if it had been performed live. So we had a moment of going, oh, there's something good about this, but no, we want to get back live. Theatre's all about live performance. Yeah. We don't want this to replace it. So, but we managed to do lots of things, and thankfully with government support, to be able to keep employing artists and reaching audiences in Ireland and elsewhere. We employed, last year, for instance, we employed over 200 artists, which is a similar number to the amount we'd employ in other years, despite the pandemic. So we're very proud to have been able to keep going and thriving with the support and partnership of yourselves in Milwaukee and lots of other arts and non-arts organizations that we've built up as friends and colleagues and partners over the years. I mean, that's been crucial to making all that happen.
Yeah, and so that's a positive that came out of the pandemic, your partnerships. So talk about that. I mean, I think you mentioned you've expanded those partnerships over the pandemic, but I'm assuming that gives you a broader audience and gives you maybe more ideas. I don't know. Talk to me about your partnerships.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the thing, where we kind of rely on partnerships with people to make the work happen. And I suppose it's allowed us to, in the past, I suppose, with our partners, like with Arts Projects Australia or Merigong in Australia, or with the Taranaki Arts Festival in New Zealand, and then a lot of partners in the UK, in the Traverse or Dance Space, or Summer Hall in Edinburgh, or with Trafalgar Theatre or Soho Theatre in London, like the places we would be most regularly. And then with the kind of the main partners in America that we were mentioning earlier, I suppose normally we either tour to those countries with a show and we'd come with our show, or we wouldn't. Whereas this has kind of allowed a kind of a new avenue to open up, that we could say, well, look, we can come online and we can present a tour digitally and share the work with you that way and with your audiences that way. So it's allowed a lot of people to see the work that wouldn't have got to those places, and we recently streamed one of Pat Kinnaman's plays before, and we saw that we had quite a substantial audience in Spain and in Vietnam, in Australia, in the States, as well as in Ireland and the UK. So and we have a performance coming up of that's going to be streamed as well as part of the Errigal Arts Festival in Donegal, which is a bilingual performance of that play before. We've translated some of it into Irish, so it's kind of an Irish and English production. And again, a lot of people have written to us from all sorts of places saying how much they're looking forward to it, and people who wouldn't necessarily have gotten to Donegal if the live performance had happened, kind of appreciating the fact that they have access to it. So it has allowed us reach new audiences and develop new audiences and expand those partnerships with people. And so we kind of value that. But I suppose going into the future, we kind of feel that we want to get back to live performance, of course, because that's, the liveness is so essential and so much part of what theatre is as an art form. And having an audience, as you know so well yourselves, and the performers in the room together in the dark, not knowing what's going to happen, sitting close together, allowing themselves to suspend their disbelief and enter into the world before them on stage, that's really magical. And we really want that to come back, like everyone does who loves theatre and live arts. But at the same time, we're thinking, well, how can we carry on some of what we've learned and gained through the pandemic? I think we will be the days of just filming shows with one camera at the back of the auditorium, as an archival kind of record, are probably gone. We probably will be filming things with more thought and and more commitment, and then trying to and also thinking about how we can still use kind of digital platforms to reach people and to kind of connect with people. So I think some of that work will still carry on in some form, certainly.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% on that. I mean, there's nothing like a live performance, and you don't have the distractions of the room around you or wherever you're watching a virtual performance. So I guess that's one question is, do you think that it'll come back stronger than ever before? And then the second follow-up is, I agree. I think that everybody's looking for how can we utilize what we've learned this past year virtually. I kind of see all what we've learned more as marketing versus that's the way these performances are going to exist. But I don't know. I'd like your thoughts on that. How do
Yeah.
first off, where do you think it's going to come back 100% and strong as ever? Or
I think
live?
eventually it will, yeah, I think it's it's like, you look at people in the hospitality sector and in the travel sector, and things are coming back slowly but surely, but people are cautious and there are variants and all that. So I suppose you feel that, I think it'll be a slower process than we had hoped maybe a year and a half ago, in terms of coming back. But I think we will with vaccinations, obviously, and there is some hope. We're kind of moving forward in terms of getting back to where we were. But I think it'll be a long process, and probably there'll be hybrid work and there'll be live work with kind of streaming and online and on demand options, I think, for a while. Or work that moves outdoors, or and work will adapt and adjust to in order to happen. But I think ultimately we'll get back. I think somebody was saying recently that after the Spanish flu, that the Roaring Twenties kicked in, and people kind of just really went for embracing life rather than being too cautious about it. So while we're cautious now, perhaps I think people will, when we're back, we'll really be back. I think certainly Fishamble's experience has been that when we were kind of out of lockdown last year around August, September for a while, and we were touring and we had limited capacity. We had audiences of 50 with social distancing and wearing masks and all that. And we kind of thought, will anyone want to come to the theatre? It's like, will people be too nervous? All those seats sold out immediately. And I think that was the case. I think anyone else I've spoken to in Ireland or elsewhere, that was the case, that people were, as soon as tickets were available, they were sold, And I thought, oh gosh, we're sitting in a 500 seater and we only have 50 people, that's the most we can get in. It's going to be a miserable experience. But actually they were like some of the best nights were those shows that I saw, because, there were only 50 people, like a tenth of the auditorium or a fifth or whatever. But everyone knew that it was actually full, like that was the most you could have in there. So people responded like a full house, not like a kind of a sort of a smattering of people in a big auditorium. The atmosphere was great. So I think that was reassuring that people are keen to get back and want to get back in general. So I think as soon as we can, it might be slower than we hoped, but I think we'll be back, and we'll be back fully, and hopefully we'll bring some of the things we've learned, as you say, through marketing and in terms of accessibility for audiences, through streaming work. I think that will stay with us in some format, even though we'll hopefully be back to where we were in terms of full live experiences with everyone sitting in chairs beside each other with no masks on them, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, Jim, thank you so much for your time. What's on the horizon for Fishamble? What are you looking at for next year, as far as content? Yeah.
So we're continuing with the current plays we have with Pat Kinnavan and Eva O'Connor, her play Mustard, which is a Fringe First winner in Edinburgh. We're streaming that in August with Summer Hall. We're streaming on Blueberry Hill, as we mentioned, with 59 E59 and with Travers, and we're also streaming Silent as part of Edinburgh with Dance Space. And then we'll have our two new shows, Duck Duck Goose and The Treaty, by Katrina Daly and Colin Murphy. And then next year, we're looking to, I suppose, continue touring that work, hopefully live, or we're putting dates together with people for live tours next year. We have a new play by Pat Kinnavan, which we're developing, which we're really excited about. There's a play as well by Eugene O'Brien, who wrote a play called Eden 20 years ago, and that was about his hometown of Eden, Derry, which was made into a TV series, which was hugely successful. And we're working on a new play where he revisits that town with him, which is fantastic. And we're working also on a new play by Deirdre Kinahan. Deirdre Kinahan is a fantastic playwright who's had lots of work done in the States as well. We did a play by Deirdre last year called Embargo, which was a collaboration with Dublin Port Company and Irish Rail. And it was site specific. It ended up having to be streamed live online and on demand because of restrictions that came in at the time. But it was about, it was another one of our plays that's part of the current decade of centenaries, I suppose, here, with the treaty coming up and with inside the GPO. That was a play called Embargo, about the arms embargo in 1920. The railway workers and the workers down in Dublin Port refused to handle British weapons or to drive trains or boats with British soldiers. And it was kind of an act of civil disobedience that really had a huge impact during the War of Independence. And so we did that play. Deirdre, we've done a play, speaking of tricky, difficult subject matters, we did a play a couple of years ago in collaboration with the Abbey. It was a co-production with them. And it was about kind of, again, a woman who meets the person who has raped her 25 years earlier, and she's moved on, and she has to decide whether she's going to confront him and get justice, or what that will mean for her life now and for the family and everything she's built up in the past 25 years. So we have a new play by Deirdre hopefully coming up, and we're working with lots of great writers as well on developing plays for the future. So we've lots of things in development all the time, and lots of work with with communities as well. We work regularly with people in Mountjoy Prison, kind of showing work in prisons. We worked recently with a lot of young people from the inner city area that we're based in through a scheme called the Trinity Access Programme. So we're kind of continuing to work with communities and create work, and then also running schemes. We have an initiative called Duets, which we run with the Irish Theatre Institute and Dublin Fringe Festival, and they're kind of pairs of artists that we support to create new work as part of the Dublin Fringe. They'll be coming up in September as well. So lots of things going on, thankfully, which is good.
You're a busy person, Jim, and we
yes, indeed. We're a busy little team. Yeah.
And we really enjoy our partnership with you. We look forward to working with you more and more through the years. And thank you for helping us with this virtual presentation. And we hope you have a very healthy year coming up.
Oh, thanks so much. Yeah, thanks a million, Barry. We love working with you as well and be connected to you guys in Milwaukee. And thanks so much for all the connections and for helping us to share our work with your audiences and the great work you do. So very best of luck with that. And maybe one day we'll be able to come live. But for the moment,
right.
The online work is great and very handy. So thank you for everything.
All right. All the best, Jim. Thank you.
Yeah, you too.
Hello Milwaukee, how are you doing? It's Colm and Laura here from our home in Glasgow, Scotland, and we are so sorry that we can't be there in person with you this year, but we promise as soon as we're able to travel again, we absolutely will. And in the meantime, we thought we'd record a few of our favourite numbers and ones that we typically do during the festivals, and we thought that we'd get the party started, albeit virtual. So if you know any of the words to any of the songs, well then please feel free to join in with us. We're going to start off with a song that we wrote from our debut album a few years ago, and it's a song called Beautiful Day. Hope you enjoy. 1, 2, 3, 4. Whoa. Waking up afternoon, a busy night ahead of you, and everyone is telling you what to do. Put your head deep in the sun, you tell yourself it'll all be grand. No one's gonna take charge of you. Everyone's thoughts and everyone's words is driving you crazy. The worst part is you don't know what to do. Figuring out is the hardest part. It's all gotta be state of the art. There's no one gonna take charge of you. You gotta stand tall and you look it in the eye, and you know damn well it will all be alright. And you know it's time to let those feelings go and face what is a beautiful day. Travel around the world and need the beauty that there is to see in places like Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Woo-hoo! Find yourself a gorgeous wife, have some kids and live your life. In the end, they're the ones we love. Look back at a time you were young, afraid, didn't have a clue, and realize how simple life can be. You tell your kids to the same, you figure out the circle, start again, but this time you know just what to say. You say you stand tall and you look it in the eye, and you know damn well it'll all be alright. And you know it's time to let those feelings go and face what is a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day. Woo! Take it away, Laura. beautiful day. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day. Whoa, it's a beautiful day. Whoa, it's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day. Thank you very much. Well, it's a beautiful day here in Glasgow, Scotland, and I hope that wherever you're watching this from, that you're also having a beautiful day. In case you didn't already realise, if you're not following us on social media, that Laura has had to undergo in the last 2 weeks.
I think 9 days. Oh, 9 days ago.
9 days ago, Laura had to have an operation on her
I'm
ankle.
sitting with my leg
So,
up.
in case you're wondering what's going on,
I've got my boot off, so at least there's that. But I'm kind of trying to do my tambourine, but it's on the wrong foot this time because normally I tambourine with my other foot. So please bear with me because it comes and goes, and it's difficult to tambourine with this foot because it moves the cello. So I'll see how I get on.
So I thought I'd give Laura a little bit of a rest in this next song, so she's not as involved in it. And but it's one to get you guys singing and warmed up, because anytime we perform this during our live shows, it's always such a pleasure to hear an audience singing along with you. This is a beautiful song, one of my favourite Celtic songs, and it's a song simply called Will You Go, Lassie Go. Oh, the summertime is coming. The trees are sweetly blooming. The wild mountain thyme blows around the blooming heather. Will you go, lassie, go? I will all go together to block wild mountain thyme all around the blooming heather. Will you go, lassie, go? I will build my love a bower near your pure crystal fountain, and on it I will build all the flowers of the mountain. Will you go, lassie, go? I will all go together to block wild mountain thyme all around the blooming heather. Will you go, lassie, go? I will all go together to block wild mountain thyme all around the blooming heather. Will you go, lassie, go? Thank you very much. Well, I hope you were singing along with us. I'm sure you are, and I'm sure it sounded lovely wherever you are.
Now, Colm, there's a fun fact about that one that you didn't share with everyone, and I was expecting you to share the fun fact.
Which is?
About where that song is from.
Well, a lot of people think because they sing about Lassie that it's a Scottish song. But actually, it's one of our own in Ireland. It's written by a man from Belfast, and he actually falls in love with a girl from Scotland in the song. So, you know, I might not be from Belfast.
I always thought it was Scottish.
You wouldn't be alone.
Sounds Scottish.
There's a few Irish songs that people think are Scottish and a few Scottish songs that people think are Irish. But this next one is one that I actually performed a few years ago at the Milwaukee Irish Fest conference. And it was amazing seeing so many of the festival organisers all in one room. And as soon as I played this afterwards, there was a few people that came over to me and said, I would love for you to play that at our festival. You have to make sure to play this song. So I thought I'd perform this for you. But it's one of my favourite songs. Certainly growing up, I used to love it. And it's a very poignant song, very kind of sad song written about the troubles in the north of Ireland. And Dolores O'Riordan from the Cranberries, the late Dolores O'Riordan, who passed away far too early, wrote this really powerful song about a younger generation of people in Northern Ireland just brought up in hatred because a previous generation told them to think this way, and in her eyes and in her words she calls this a new generation of zombies, which is what the song is all about. So a song by the Cranberries, simply called Zombie. Hope you enjoy it. Another headline slowly, child is slowly taken. When violence causes silence, we must be forsaken. But you see, it's not me, it's not my family. In your head, they're fighting with their tanks and their bombs and their bombs and their guns. In your head, they're fighting. In your head, zombie, zombie, zombie. What's in your head? In your head, zombie, zombie, zombie. Another mother's breaking heart is taken over. When violence causes silence, we must be forsaken. It's the same old scene since 1916. In your head, they're fighting with their tanks and their bombs and their bombs and their guns. In your head, they're fighting. What's in your head? In your head, zombie, zombie, zombie. What's in your head? In your head, zombie, zombie, zombie. It's the same old scene since 1916. In your head, they're fighting. Thank you very much. Thank you. one of my all-time favourites, Dolores O'Riordan and the Cranberries there with Zombie. And one of the things I'm really, really excited about in the next few weeks is that, for those who don't know, apart from performing online, we're both actually qualified teachers. Laura teaches primary school or elementary school over here, and I would teach high school or secondary school, as we call it. And in the last few years, I also set up a website where I can teach people all over the world about Irish history and Irish language, things that I did my degree in way back when. And I've been absolutely delighted to be asked by Milwaukee to team up as part of their summer school and offer a virtual class in the Irish language. So if anyone would like to join, I'm absolutely thrilled to be part of the lineup this year. And I believe the dates are going to be between the 14th and 19th of August. And if you want to check out the Milwaukee Irish Fest Summer School online, well, then you're going to see a link to one of the classes. Or if you follow me on social media as well, on my website, colmkeegan.com, I will post the link as well. So I'm really excited about that. And for any of you guys who want to learn the language, you're more than welcome to join. But for now, we're going to go back to another song that we wrote a few years ago. And it's a song from the album, and it's a song called Ways of Future. So I hope you enjoy it.
By goes all those years, heart is thumping. Have you done this right? Sitting there with so much time, all those dummies join the line. Is this what your life is meant to be? Following my wildest dreams where everyone was king and queen, but no one there anchoring their ships, hanging in by just a thread. This is not what they said. This is what your life is meant to be. Then you stop, spit it out. Good and bad, the still to come. And you stop the winding tape to admire what you've done. Crowns on your head with the wind from the sea. There's no that you'd rather be. Sailing through stormy winds, people stand proud of their sins. Do I stand next to them in line? All I've ever thought for me was think I'm breaking free, but now those demons void have been my mind. Following my wildest dreams where everyone was king and queen, but no one there anchoring their ships, hanging in by just the way. That's alright, you know this there. Way you see and think who that you through. Then you stop, spit it out. Good and bad, the still to come. And you stop the winding tape to admire what you've done. And the crowns on your head with the wind from the sea. I'd rather be. Then stop, spit it out of good and bad, the still to come. And you stop the winding tape to admire what you've done. And the crown that's on your head with the wind from the sea. There's no that you'd rather be.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Not quite the same without our cajon, but...
Well, here's a song that has been requested a lot in recent years, and it's a song that we wrote about finding out about our first child when our son was born a few years ago.
This is a bit of a surprise. I didn't know I was doing. We were doing this one.
Well, I put a bit of a poll out there on social media to see what songs people were looking for, and this one came back overwhelmingly. So it's a song that we found out about the birth of our first son, our son Oisín, and we decided to write a song about him. So this is a song called On the Day We Met. Sun was shining in the sky, the birds sang out their song. Grafton Street was buzzing high, love was swinging along. The coffee shops were filling up as the buskers set them move. The scene was set for us to hear the news that we'd have you. Hands were shaking, hearts were thumping, fear inside men spinning around. This average day had just become the moment we'd be down along. With a big smile on his face, he spread across the human race and touch of his hands. The feeling I couldn't understand, but when he smiles at me, I see the man I don't wanna be. It's in this song I say to you, swear I'll make your dreams come true. Son, you don't know it just quite yet. You made ours come true on the day we met. Spinning around this average day had just become the moment we beat down among. With a big smile on his face, spread across the human race and touch of his hands. The feeling I couldn't understand, but when he smiles at me, I see the man I don't wanna be. In this song I say to you, I swear I'll make your dreams come true. Son, you don't know it just quite yet. You made ours come true on the day we met. 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 Well, folks, I really hope you're enjoying the set so far, and I really hope that you're enjoying this virtual show. Again, a massive thanks to Barry Stapleton and the rest of the organisers in Milwaukee for asking Laura and I to be involved. And we're going to get the party started now with the next two. So if we were here in person, if we were on stage right now, I'd be getting you all to repeat after me and singing La La Lum, La La Lum, La Lum. So the only words that you have to worry about really are La La Lum. And that's it. So I want you, even if you're going to sing...
Colm used to teach it La La La, and then I was like, no, it's La La Lum.
La La Lum, La La Lum.
La La Lum.
So, wouldn't be the only thing I've been corrected on. But... So, I don't even, if you're even in a really public place, if you're in a library and you're watching this, I still want you blasting this out. Listen back to it, okay? So as loud as you can, at your screen. All together, we're going to sing La La Lum, La La Lum, La Lum. And that's all there is to it. Okay, this is a song from the album again. It's a song called Where We'll Be. Hope you enjoy. La 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 la. One more time. La 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 la. Backing up again, I'm leaving on the road again. I'm going different city, different town. People here don't hang around. A low goodbye won't mean a thing. Sing to me. I write a song and think of you. When I sing, our dreams come true. Tune is sweet, but lyrics dry. Reminds me of our last goodbye. Time you told me not to leave, but in the song, that's where we'll be. I know there's times you're tired of me being gone. I know there's times, I'm sure, feel like moving on. I wish that I could take you to a place where I know we'll always be. La la la, la la la, la la. One more time, let me hear you. La la la, la la la, la la la, la la. Entering a new arena. From the stage I think I've seen you. Heart is thumping, sweat is pumping. I look round and see you standing. I reach out my hands to find that you're not here. I leave the stage and close my eyes and sing the song, and to my surprise you're standing right in front of me, in the place you said you'd be. I run to hold your hands and sing her song. Whoa, la 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 la. La 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 la. I know there's times you're tired of me being gone. I know there's times I'm sure you feel like moving on. I wish that I could take you to the place where I know we'll always be. I know there's times you're tired of me being gone. I know there's times I'm sure you feel like moving on. I wish that I could take you to the place where I know we'll always be. La 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 la. Here we go. Woo! 1, 2, 3, go! As I was going over Cork and Kerry Mountain, Captain Furrow and his money he was counting. I first produced my pistol, then produced my rapier. I said, stand and deliver, whoa, or the devil he may take you. Oh, my ring and a little bit light. Whack for my daddy-o, whack for my daddy-o, there's whiskey in the jar. fouling. Some men like to hear the cannonball roaring, but me, I like sleeping, especially in my Molly's chambers. Here I am in prison, here I am with a ball and chain, yeah. Oh, my ring and my dirty life. Back for my daddy-o, back for my daddy-o, there's whiskey in the jar. La la lam, la la lam, la 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 lam.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you very much. Well, folks, we really hope you've had a good time. We hope you've enjoyed the set. We want to say a massive thank you to everyone in Milwaukee for inviting Laura and I to perform. Albeit virtual this year, when we got our vaccine, we thought we were full speed ahead back to the States this summer, and unfortunately, with all the embassies closed and everything, there is just no way of getting back this summer. But we are so thrilled to be able to perform virtually, and we cannot wait to perform again in person as soon as we can. But again, when I spoke about that Milwaukee conference a few years ago, there was a song that I finished off with that night. And if any of the festival organisers tell you that they don't know the words to this song, I am telling you right now that is a big fat lie, because I heard them in front of my own two eyes belting out every word of this song. And it seems fitting that we're in Glasgow, Scotland, to end with this next song. So again, now that you're all vocally warmed up, we want to hear you sing along with us. This is a song about a location where we got married a few years ago. Only about a 30-minute drive from where we are now. It's a beautiful song about a beautiful loch. This is a song called Loch Lomond. I actually said that a few years ago at a gig. Said a beautiful song about a beautiful loch. And the boy in the front row turned around and goes, "Oh, I love the Loch Ness Monster." I thought, well, this is a bit of an anticlimax now. But this is, of course, Loch Lomond. Thank you very much, folks, for joining in, and I hope you enjoy this. By yon bonny banks, yon bonny breeze, where the sun shines bright on Loch Lomond, me and my true love will never meet again on the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. Oh, I'll take the high road and you'll take the low road. I'll be in Scotland for ye, but me and my true love will never meet again on the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. Now that we've set the mood, now that we've all got the words in our heads, we're gonna join in all together. 'Twas there that we parted on yon shady glen, on the steep, steep side of where in the purple view the Highland hills we view, and the moon coming out in the gold. I'll take the high road and you'll take the low. I'll be in Scotland for ye, where me and my true love will never meet again. On the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. Well, folks, we want to say a massive thank you to the Milwaukee Irish Fest for asking Laura and I to perform, and we hope you've enjoyed the set so far. Have a great time at the festival. We really can't wait to be there again in person. And anyone who's looking to join us for the Irish language workshop, check out the Milwaukee Irish Fest Summer School online, and I hope to see you there. But before all of that, we're going to get you to sing one more time, because now we want you guys to do the singing and remove ourselves from wherever it is around the world you're watching this show and plan ourselves in Glasgow, Scotland with Laura and I. And I tell you what, folks, when it comes to this song, they are not shy. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. Oh, I'll take the high road and you'll take the low road. I'll be in Scotland for ye, where me and my true love will never meet again. On the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. On the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. Thank you very much, folks. Have a great time at the festival, and thanks again to Milwaukee for having us. Take
Thanks
care.
so much.
See you soon. Bye.
Hello everybody at Milwaukee Irish Festival. My name is Dr. Niamh Hamill. I am the director of the Institute of Study Abroad Ireland, and I am very jealous today because usually I would be in Milwaukee with you and I would have been at summer school, but unfortunately we've had the year that we've had and travel wasn't possible. I am delighted, however, to be able to be with you in this virtual way, and also to bring you an interview that I did with the Irish poet Paula Meehan. I think she is an absolutely wonderful writer. I'm very fond of poetry myself. Unfortunately, no talent to write it, but I do appreciate it very much. And I write a little blog about my favourite Irish poems, and hopefully I'll be able to publish that next year. And I love to bring poetry to people and poets to people, and so I was really delighted to be able to bring Paula to the Irish Festival. Many of you will be already familiar with it. She's very well known, but I also hope that there are some of you who don't know anything about her and will take a chance and watch this video and be introduced to her. Paula has just published a collection of her poems over the years, and I've asked her to read some of those poems for us, and also to tell us a bit about her background. It's quite a unique background. Many of our well-known Irish writers come from the Anglo-Irish tradition, and Paula comes from the inner city of Dublin, and to have a woman's voice from the working class part of Ireland is quite unusual, and it's very, very important, very significant. And she has had a wonderful, joyful way of bringing her experiences through her poems to all sorts of people in Ireland. She works a lot in colleges and universities, but she also works with women's groups. She works in prisons. She really is generous and kind in bringing her wonderful, unique way of seeing the world to many, many people in many places. And of course, it was typical of her to offer to do this conversation with me for the festival. So I will let Paula do the rest of the talking. We did this interview about 2 weeks ago. I was in Donegal here in Bundoran, and she was in Dublin. And as I said, I hope you really enjoy it. And thank you very much. Hello, everybody in Milwaukee Irish Festival. I'm absolutely thrilled today to introduce you to Irish poet Paula Meehan. In my mind, Paula is the greatest living Irish poet. I have been a fan of her stuff for a long, long time. She has just published her anthology, which is called As If by Magic. And I want to encourage you to go and get this and have it on your bookshelf, and also buy a second copy to give to your best friend. That's how good it is. I think it's an absolute honor to have her speak to us, and every word is a gem. So without further ado, I will hand you over to Paula Meehan.
Hi, Niamh. It's lovely to see you up in beautiful Bundoran. I'm here in Baldoyle on the East Coast, and it's amazing out there. The whole of suburban Dublin has just burst into blossom. We're having a small little bit of merciful heat after what has been a very long and hard winter. I really want to talk about my new book, which is the American edition, is here behind me on the shelf. You know, look at me there. I call that Lady Muck, the portrait of me, Lady Muck, because it's what my grandmother would call me there in my regalia. So I just wanted to say thank you for this chance to talk about the book, which is just out from Wake Forest Press. And I'm going to read, though, from my Irish edition, which is already getting growing feathers. So I'm going to start with a poem called Seed, which I wrote in 1989. This is a selected poem, so I've taken poems from all over my 30 or 40 year span of making them. And like that, you know, you make a poem, you publish it, you send it out, see what happens, you forget about it quite often, but then it can have another moment. And for some strange reason, this small poem that I wrote on an idle day in 1989 suddenly seemed to have a moment where people were reading it, people were putting music to it, the students especially started to play it, harpists put tunes to it. It got very interesting the way a poem can have a life totally out of its time and out of your own agenda for it. So the seed. The first warm day of spring, and I step out into the garden from the ghosts of a house where hope had died, to tally the storm damage, to seek what may have survived, and finding some forgotten lupins I'd sown from seed last autumn, holding in their fingers a raindrop each, like a peace offering or a promise. I am suddenly grateful and would offer a prayer if I believed in God, but not believing, I bless the power of seed, its casual, useful persistence, and bless the power of sun, its conspiracy with the underground, and thank my stars the winter's ended. So as I said, you just don't know where a poem will end up. And I love that about them, that once they're made and they go off into the world, anything might happen, which is another, I suppose, way of introducing this next poem, which is called Folktale. And again, I wrote it because I'd heard many stories like that. In our own tradition, we often have this figure of the old woman who turns, and there she is, a radiant spare van, a figure of Mother Ireland herself. The Aisling form is a form that's been heavily politicized, where the woman in the poem becomes the nation. But of course, it's a much, much older, it goes way back to ideas of the muse and the muse mother, and where inspiration comes from, and how truth is a very, very old and ancient thing, but every generation must find it. So this is called Folktale, and I've heard versions in the Yiddish. I've heard versions from different First Nations people on your own continent. And strangely, Christy Moore put a tune to this. He heard the lyric in the tale, as it were. Folktale. A young man falls in love with truth and searches the wide world for her. He finds her in a small house, in a clearing, in a forest. She is old and stooped. He swears himself to her service, to chop wood, to carry water, to collect the root, the stem, the leaf, the flowering top, the seed of each plant she needs for her work. Years go by. One day the young man wakes up longing for a child. He goes to the old woman and asks to be released from his oath so that he may return to the world. Certainly, she says, but on one condition: you must tell them that I am young and that I am beautiful. I think the way that truth kind of hits a generation, every generation, is through the song and through the song tradition. I was so honoured when Christy Moore, who is one of our great folk singers, the Irish Woody Guthrie, without a doubt, when he put a tune to a poem I'd made. And this next poem, which is a bit longer than those first two, is called Home. And I was thinking about how, you know, when Irish people sit around and singers, when they're talking about their songs or songs they've got from someone, they trace it like they trace the song's journey, where they got it from, where that woman got it from, where that fella got it from. And you see the song moving across the landscape as the different versions accumulate, with the tunes as well. So I was asked just last week to celebrate Bob Dylan, the great Nobel laureate, to celebrate his 80th birthday. I was asked to put a poem in this special book that will go to his archive in Tulsa. So this is the one which honours the song tradition and honours the tune makers and the tune carriers. The version I sent to Bob, I prefaced with two of his lines. Can you tell me where we're heading? Lincoln County Road or Armageddon? So home. I am the blind woman finding her way home by a map of tune. When the song that is in me is the song I hear from the world, I'll be home. It's not written down and I don't remember the words, but I know when I hear it, I'll have made it myself, I'll be home. A version I heard once in Leitrim was close, a wet Tuesday night in the Shanrelig bar. I had come for the session. I stayed for the vision and lore. The landlord called time, the music dried up, the grace notes were pitched to the dark. When the jukebox blared out, I'd only 4 senses and he left me senseless. I'd no choice but to take to the road. On Grafton Street in November, I heard a mighty sound. A travelling man with a didgeridoo blew me clear to Botany Bay. The tune too far back to live in, but scribed on my bones. In a past life, I must have been kangaroo, rocked in my dream time, convict ships coming o'er the foam. In the puzzle factory, one winter, I was sure I was home. The talking in tongues, the riddles, the rhyme struck a chord that cut through the pharmaceutical haze. my rhythm catatonic. I lulled myself back to the womb, my mother's heart beating, the drum of herself and her world. I was tricked by her undersong, just close enough to my own. I took then to dancing. I spun like a dervish. I swear I heard the subtle music of the spheres. It's no place to live but out there in space on your own, hung aloft the night. The tune was in truth a mechanical drone. I was a pitiful monkey jigging on cue. I came back to earth with the land, to rain on my face, to sun in my hair, and grateful too. The wise women say you must live in your skin, call it home. No matter how battered or broken, misused by the world, you can heal. This morning, a letter arrived on the 9 o'clock post, the Department of Historical Reparation. And who do I blame? The nuns, your mother, the state. Tick box provided, we'll consider your case. I'm burning my soapbox. I'm taking the very next train, a citizen of nowhere, nothing to my name. I'm on my last journey. Though my lines are all wonky, they make me a map that makes sense, where the song that is in me is the song I hear from the world. I'll set down my burden and sleep, the spot that I lie on, at last, the place I'll call home. So that's a kind of a come all, if you like, but it was my homage to the song tradition, because as we know, the song will get you through. The song will get you through or help you get through. I'm going to read this poem, which is kind of very un-Irish poem, but like we live in a paradoxical universe here on the island. When you think about the poet that has been considered for many, many years, our national poet was W.B. Yeats, who, like when the other lads were out at the GPO, the other poets getting shot, he was designing his robes because he had been elevated to chief wizard in the order of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. So I just think that and yet he wrote the great poem of the Revolution, Easter 1916. But I love these paradoxes. So as a paradoxical act now, at a festival which cherishes Irish traditions, I'm going to read you Quitting the Bars. And it's a villanelle, which is a form that came into the English language from the troubadours, you know, the singer poets who brought it up, swept up with Normans. And they had, you know, inherited it, if you like, from the slave farms of the Roman Empire, the latifundia. So if you trace back its origins, like most of the so-called high literary forms, you'll find a song, and you'll usually find a song of, you know, what could be called the common people, songs of those who don't write the histories. They're not the rulers. They don't write the histories. They make the songs. So this is Quitting the Bars, which is a kind of blues song. Quitting's hard, but staying sober's harder. The day by day, the drudge on boredom bit. Not sure if the self is cell or warder. You quit the bars, you quit the sordid ardour. You quit the tulpas sucking on your tit. Quitting's hard, but staying sober's harder. You sometimes think you got away with murder. The shady souls regard you as you sit. You wonder if they are wards or warders in this sad cafe. The mind's last border dissolves. Guilt has done a midnight flit. Quitting's hard, but staying sober's harder. So sip cool water, the lights a wonder, streaming out in wave particles. You've lit up bright your prison cell. Body, warder of your dreams, will be the dream's recorder, though wrapped now in a skin that doesn't fit. Quitting's hard, but staying sober's harder, stranger, for you're being both ward and warder. So thanks very much for listening to my blues. That was my blues song. I was very influenced by a great Canadian-American poet, Elizabeth Bishop. Her great villanelle, because that's the technical name for the patterning in the poem. Her great villanelle is the art, one art it's called, and it's the art of losing. And I know when I read it, I was thinking, God, I wonder would she have lost as much? She had a lot of tragedy in her life. Her mother was taken away to a psychiatric hospital, and she was raised by her grandparents in the States, having spent her childhood idyllically with her grandparents up in Nova Scotia. But her poem, The Art of Losing, I remember reading it and thinking, I wonder would she have lost as much in later life if she stayed sober? But then we wouldn't have got one of the great poems, one of the great blues songs of the tradition. But anyway, my Quitting the Bars is a direct descendant of her poem, the way poems do have their own strange and curious lineage. So I want to finish a poem that honours a great American poet that had huge influence on me when I went to study up in the far Northwest, up in Eastern Washington University in Washington State. And I did my Master's of Fine Arts up there. Fantastic 2 years. With great teachers and great visiting writers, the American ecologist, Buddhist, and brilliant poet Gary Snyder came and taught. Distinguished visiting writer Grace Paley, the short story writer. There was Carolyn Kaiser, who was a great translator from the Chinese. So I was so lucky in those 2 years and to get to experience the wild Northwest and connect into so many fantastic poets, musicians. I had a great time up there, excuse me. But one of the poets I was introduced to was Gwendolyn Brooks, who was born in 1917. So her centenary was in the year 2017. And to honor her, 2 American poets, Peter Kahn and Terry Hayes, put together an anthology to honor her, and they asked a slew of poets to contribute. She was the first Black writer to win a Pulitzer Prize, and she wrote her great book for this collection, which was a huge influence on me as a young poet from the north inner city of Dublin. When I read her Street in Bronzeville, I thought, wow, yes, this is exactly maps on to my experience living in the village of what was Monto, the old red light district at the heart of the north inner city. So I just loved her, and I was delighted to be asked to make a poem for her. And it's probably the newest literary form in the English tradition, which, remember, is this vast language of empire. So everywhere the language went, it just kind of hoovered up the energy of it, the people that it was colonizing, but also hoovered up the energy of their languages, I believe. So Gwendolyn Brooks and this collection of poems from all over the different Englishes to honor this woman. The Golden Shovel, this new form, takes one line of any of her poems and uses each word in the line as the end word of their verses. So you're taking literally the fabric of a poem of hers and you're spinning your own passions and concerns out of it. So I just thought, and it's the newest literary form and invented by Terry Hayes, the great American poet. So anyway, the line I took comes from Gwendolyn Brooks's poem, The Mother, and she wrote it as an act of solace and empathy for women who are being preached against for having to take abortion. as a solution to their crises. So she wrote this as a poem of witness and solace. And the line I took from that great poem is, "The singers and workers that never handled the air." And this is the little poem of 9 lines that I spun out of it, and it's called The Ghost Song. From a dream of summer, of absinthe, I woke to winter. Carol singers decked the walls of some long-lost homeland. Late-night shoppers and drowsy workers headed for the train. So the night that you died was two-faced. June light never far from mind, though snow fell. I handled grief like molten sunshine, learned to breathe your high, lithe ghost song from thinnest air. So that's Gwendolyn Brooks, my homage to a great American poet. I suppose the sources that I use for my work come from the life I've led. They're not, the poems themselves aren't necessarily autobiographical, but the sources are the experiences and the things I've seen in my life. I grew up in the heart of Dublin, the old inner city. I was raised by my grandparents. My father and mother were migrant workers. They went to London in the 50s, where there was loads of work rebuilding Britain after the war. So I was left with my grandparents, and I had a totally idyllic childhood, really, because they just showered me with devotion. They fed all my fantasies of grandeur, and I was known colloquially as Lady Muck. So I just think that relationship really gave me a huge amount of nourishment. My grandfather taught me to read and write, which meant that going into the schools, I had this amazing tool to decode what I was being taught, in the sense that they were preparing the inner city children really for a life in the sweatshops or in service. We had the kind of end of it, nearly a Victorian childhood. So my grandparents really set that kind of foundation for me to kind of come into the education system, but at a kind of a slant. And I mean, I had, from the beginning, it was war, really, because it was the days where they could beat children. And we had to learn by heart. We had to learn a verse of Irish and English poetry by heart every night. And if you didn't have it off, you could be beaten, depending on the humour of that adult in whose clutches you were all day. So I would have found school kind of quite terrifying. And in fact, I was thrown out of secondary school because by that stage I was a voracious reader, and I was just prepared to argue the toss about everything. I mean, I must have been a total pain in the butt, really. But I mean, I did act according to my beliefs. And eventually I got through the secondary system and I went to Trinity College, which would have been unheard of in my community, and certainly unheard of in the family. So that's my background. At university, of course, my time at university coincided with this enormous flourishing of energy around music and theatre, and we were just full of it. And all that energy was as nourishing as the things I learned in college, and I was taught by poets. I was taught the history of language by Elaine Quillinan, one of our great poets, Brendan Kennelly. I just had great teachers in there, even though I wasn't a good student, because, as I say, music, street theatre, rock and roll, all those temptations were out there. And they had a bigger claim on me, really, than the scholarship. But so the poetry came fairly early when I was a teenager, but it was mostly songs. It was all bands then. By then we'd moved to the new estate out in Finglas, and it was all bands, rock and roll, psychedelia, a lot of West Coast influence, a lot of US. And of course we were absolute devotees of Bob Dylan, your great Nobel laureate, our great Nobel laureate, because although we have Seamus Heaney, whom we adore, and who is just a superb poet, and we are devoted to him and his memory. We have Evan Boland, another fantastic contemporary poet who died just at the beginning of the lock-in, as I call it. But Bob Dylan is a kind of for everyone, you know. He's a kind of a worldwide figure. He's gone into all languages and none. So I was so delighted that he was, you know, given the Nobel for services to the American songbook, really. And, you know, we all have a part in the American songbook, especially those Irish songs that were fed to him through the Clancy's back in the day. So for all those reasons, I probably tuned into the lyric end of the poetry tradition. So that's the tradition I work in. I'm really a frustrated songmaker, but I try and push language so that it can be as close as I can get it to song without actually being sung. Though in later years, I've been very lucky that many of my songs have been put to music by, you know, folk singers, by composers of the avant-garde, by local community choirs. I mean, one of my favorite choirs is the Forever Young choir out in Finglas, who are senior over 65s, and they specialize in punk and old rock and roll standards, you know. So they're just, to be, for me, the honor of them taking one of my lyrics and to a tune by Sean Doherty, actually, making a fantastic choral piece from it. Just blows my mind. And I'm just lucky. But I thought I'd honor those grandparents who gave me the tools to navigate this life. I thought I'd just read 2 poems for them. So the first one is Hannah, Grandmother. Coldest day yet of November, her voice close in my ear. Tell them priests nothing. Was I 12, 13, filthy-minded? Keep your sins to yourself. Don't be giving them a thrill, dirty old feckers. As close as she came to the birds and the bees, on her knees in front of the Madonna, Our Lady of the Facts of Life, beside the confessional, oak door closing like a coffin lid, neatly carpentered, waxed and buffed. In the well-made box of this poem, her voice dies. She closes her eyes and lowers her brow to her joined hands, prays hard, woman to woman. My mother died when she was 42. She left a young family, and my father, who was, you know, quite a traditional kind of Dublin man, stoic, just got on with things, never, like he was in his 70s when he learned to give us a hug. And he had 5 like rambunctious wild daughters and, you know, my brother, a beautiful man now, wild kind of young ones, and completely anti-authoritarian in their very bones. And he took it with a kind of a grace, I thought. But he thought I was a space case, you know. He thought writing poetry and trying to make a living, and obviously failing as a poet, was like akin to basket weaving in some place where you should be securely kept away from the rest of them. And he was also a bit nervous, like family stories, the lore, you know, the skeletons in the cupboard. And so at family gatherings, when people be telling stories, he'd be saying, don't be telling her that. Don't tell her that. She's going to put it in a poem. So he had that anxiety, which I totally understand in family and community, of the kind of betrayal that a writer sometimes is perceived to have done, you know. Sometimes the individual artist's weakness is the community's sense of wounds being pulled apart. So, you know, you're kind of walking this line right through your life as a poet, certainly. So my father would have been, you know, he was, slagging was the way we showed affection in our family. He'd be saying, what is all this education for? Look at the state of you, wearing black, depressed, look at you. What is all this education for? And as I got older and the poetry became really the central and absolutely committed path of my life, it became, what was all that education for? And I suppose in his traditional mindset, you know, it didn't look like I was making the jump to the middle class, or whatever people think an education should help you do. But in the last year of his life, you know, he died in the hospice in Raheny down the road. And in the last year of his life, two things happened that completely transformed his idea of me. He was a lifelong gambler, from a long line of gamblers. So he was always at the horses on these complex bets, Yankee bets and lucky 31s. And he was a crossword fanatic, which is probably where I get some of my verbal dexterity, because in our house, 5 letters, 7 letters, another word. Have you got another word for conundrum? So that was always ringing in the ear with crosswords. My mother too, and when she was alive. In the last year of his life, I was a clue in the Irish Times. 4 letters, right? 4 letters. P-O-E-T. He couldn't deny it. And he was just, it was the look of radiant shock on his face. 4 letters. So in the last file of his life, I'd go 4 letters, Larry. And the other thing, I was a bet in the bookies in Finglas that I would come up on the leaving cert. So I thought, you know, he suddenly, our two worlds collided, you know. We were great pals for the adult stage of our lives, and he was a great cracking sense of fun. But his 5 daughters, and we were all so determined to live our lives to the full of it and take, you know, and fight for our rights, because, you know, I grew up in the 50s in Ireland, and even, you know, all my life as a young woman was lived in the shadow of the 8th Amendment to our Constitution, which basically just underscored lack of autonomy. And subsequent years kind of revealed how our unspeakable, even, or unspoken anxieties of that time were absolutely on the button, you know. Even though people mightn't have had a language for it, we see in subsequent inquiries into child sexual abuse, into the Tuam babies, into all the different areas of our lives where things were buried and hidden. So it's a particular pleasure for me at this stage of my life to see profound change. And I know this year, within a kind of an internal year, we are all changed utterly. Yeah, and I'm hoping that it won't be a terrible beauty that is born, but that something about the connectivity that we've all experienced will kind of pull us out into a saner life. It's not what everyone hopes for all the way through, just a more balanced existence on this beautiful planet. My father perceived as a vision of St. Francis. It was the piebald horse in next door's garden, frightened me out of a dream with her dawn whinny. I was back in the box room of the house, my brother's room now, full of ties and sweaters and secrets. Bottles chinked on the doorstep. The first bus pulled up to the stop. The rest of the house slept, except for my father. I heard him rake the ash from the grate, plug in the kettle, hum a snatch of tune. Then he unlocked the back door and stepped out into the garden. Autumn was nearly done. The first frost whitened the slates of the estate. He was older than I had reckoned, his hair completely silver. And for the first time, I saw the stoop of his shoulder, saw that his leg was stiff. What's he at so early, and still stars in the west? They came then, birds of every size, shape, colour. They came from the hedges and shrubs and eaves and garden sheds, from the industrial estate, outlying fields. From Dubber Cross they came, and the ditches of the North Road. The garden was a pandemonium when my father threw up his hands and tossed the crumbs to the air. The sun cleared O'Reilly's chimney, and he was suddenly radiant, a perfect vision of St. Francis, made whole, made young again in a fingless garden. I suppose one of the sources of my own poetry was the kind of storytelling I got as a child. All over the city, in the old churches, where those of you of my age might remember that those masses were in Latin. They were mysterious with incense and candles and all the paintings, you know, the image and the stories. So that my Catholic, I'm a cultural Catholic, and it made a huge mark on me. Gave me access to a whole store of story. Really, as strong an access as the stories of the streets that I was getting, and the stories associated with living in the tenements, because the tenements of the time were the old cast-off Georgian townhouses, and they were built in the classical mode. So quite often there might be, you know, nymphs being chased by Pan, the god Pan. You know, these extraordinary stucadore works from the 18th century, albeit often with leaky roofs coming through and like one cold water tap on a landing. But what I'm trying to say, I suppose, in a long-winded way, is that the one thing I've learned from my life as a poet is that what oppresses you is also your power. If you can hold that oppression and turn it and articulate it in the search for truth and beauty, then you will have changed the energy of what oppresses you into something that is positive and you can give back to your community. That's all I've learned from my life as a poet. So listen, thanks for listening to me, and I hope you just have a fantastic and safe summer. Did we ever think we'd be asking each other to stay safe all the time? So thank you for your attention.
Hello, Milwaukee. Cathy Wilshire. We are very, very excited to be back playing a bit of music for you after all this time. We can't wait to see you in real life. But for the time being, we're going to play a little show for you here now tonight. We're going to start off with a traditional song and we'll take it from there. So we hope you enjoy the next half hour.
Lo de casu calindas ram in weakness na draw lu up na colles glishod ivarim law she on fragid long she long go kyu na gaskatla Todden siel na galle spagamish and sushin ba Smavien tulum bilum a story na chri Smavien tulum bilum os golti Smavien tulum skerlam Gachaulach de chri Shemavila krok Nachlam de dune tu mar free still as na bhanna cuairs manam telgi agus spé a cosúháin a bugger eye muffin lín leis an rinne chuil bheith ach mutí sewa the gay scalam chrúi sí curtilin le mulin tí hir go choch a solesan gon red and gweir fan up on the glass lick 'em down brew-rai leis an tinne show gurney tiller gone smooth on the brew-rai leis an tinne show Níl mé an fearla má hín go train Cas an tíl mar bhréig an túlge ar fatís ribbon lace Ní mé an gadi Ní hin mo léin Oh, brishe ban chassis boats go way to play Up on the glass Stick 'em down Brew-rai leis an tinne show Gurney tiller Going smooth on the brew-rai leis an tinne show Tear all room, straw is corn. Yeta skacha, gon er alliance, blanco one, jas fuil on arm. The bow is side. Ach, the steen shall leg a mayman on her woods fween. Banti my glass, in shaddy. Tashter shot, go mag on tille chachti e kun along so squealing a chan question yon shen smarter vishe no question yon shen smarter vishe no question yon shen maravilha So, as I said previously, we are Seo Linn. And what we love to do is mix the Irish language, a little bit of culture, and also a bit of fun. So for this next section, we're going to sing one of our songs that's about the mindset of Irish people rising and always rising. It's a song called Rise. After that, we're going to take on a bit of our journey with our drummer Connor, and then we're going to finish that section with a nice old song where we want everybody at home to dance along to. So please enjoy. Brana timple agus tógan ná War de chorne muid ar an rampa Ní sig díú ar an scam an geall Fógur tani in a sailú Oh, an láig tá tú lean Oh, is muid é blaisi an lé Oh, ar scáhhaid a sin Oh, for we will rise Sunny, sunny, and we will fly Lost it all in, and we will rise Sunny, sunny, and we will fly Lost it all Take a breath and have a look around For what we build is an image of our lives Let us be so that we are proud Another stone has helped to stand up and reach their light Whoa, the line time to live Whoa, let's wait to flash it on me Whoa, let's go and shit Whoa, let's go now we'll ride Sunny, sunny, and we will ride Lost it all in, and we will rise Sunny, sunny, and we will fly Lost it all in For we will rise, we will fly, we will rise, we will fly, and we will rise, and we will fly, and we will rise, we will fly. Sunny, sunny, and we will rise. Lost it all in, and we will fly. Sunny, sunny, and we will rise. Lost it all in. Take a breath and have a look around. Or the chornek ones or the Let's see if you can keep up with this fella now.
nip make Dana. Anyone make Tyrese for Dana. Should I sleep taking a Dana? Oh, love is better ain't your Dana. Oh, oh, oh. Whoa, oh, 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 oh. Whoa, oh, 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 oh. Sky Kayla, we asked the Canadian. The Sky Kayla, we brought the Spader. The Sky Kayla, we asked the Canadian. The Sky Kayla, we brought the Spader. Tip the tip, ek vol ons ek vol. Dat is free, I got to free love. The free one, the time on me got it. Want to get some more, it's still in the box. Oh, oh. Okay, Gachta is small, everyone at home, let's get you grooving. Go on, Connor, show us what you can do. This next bit is a little bit of the Lugandan language. We wrote this song in Uganda. Here we go. Kwega to Webagum, 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 Kwega to Webagum. Let's build it. Oh, oh, oh. Sky Kayla, fui as na gréine. Sky Kayla, fui brought na spade. Sky Kayla, Sky Kayla, Sky Kayla, Sky Kayla. Got a minute, guys. We're towards the end of the show now. Thank you so much for tuning in over the last half hour or so. We have one last song left. It's a song that is 400 years old, or so they say. But it's a great song written about a woman who's lamenting the fact that her partner has gone to war in Europe, and she doesn't know whether he's going to return or not. And she's talking about all the different things that she would do to stop what was going on and to finish it up and stuff. So it's a really, really old song. It's very, very much embedded in the Irish tradition. And this is a more kind of modern, I suppose, Seo Linn version, which is our new single at the moment. So if you want to check that out, you can. And once again, thank you to everybody at Milwaukee Irish Fest. We hope you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, whether you're in Wisconsin or whether you're at home watching from wherever you're from. But Mila buíochas a ríist, and we'll catch you very soon, I'm sure. Shoo, shoo, shoo. Shoo go sakera shoo go kyu. Shoo go
Tares agus ile long. Is go dé tú a bhuaníos long. Wish I was on yonder hill. There I would sit and cry my fill, till all my tears would turn and fill. Is go dé tú a bhuaníos long. Siúl, siúl, siúl a rún. Siúl go sucir agus siúl go ciún. Siúl go tares agus éile lom. Is go dé tú a bhuaníos long. Sell my rock, I'd sell my reel, would sell my only spinning wheel, to take away the sword of steel. Is go dé tú a bhuaníos long. Siúl, 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 siúl go sucir agus siúl, siúl go tares agus éile long. Is go dé tú a bhuaníos long. Siúl, siúl a rún. Siúl go sucir agus siúl go ciún. Siúl go tares agus éile long. Is go dé tú a bhuaníos long. Der an star gan lisnach a bhead, an tí seo go chocht deire. Ha, uair sa síl, ordaí an tonfií an na cóide, an na spéide go lonrach, agus pósin an star agus an dóchas. Marsú, cuairde an tarú mara, an tíbhall go chocht deire. Creid sa glalach geall, nachfuil sé a géimein. Creid sa bhar, creid sa tíochan, creid sa dobar an laios creid. Siúl, siúl, siúl a rún. Siúl go sucir agus siúl go ciún. Siúl go tares agus éile long. Is go dé tú a bhuaníos long.
Sinead, gur míle maithfidh gachtainna. Thank you so much, Milwaukee Irish Fest. We've really enjoyed it. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you soon.
Sky Gaelic, we asked the Graine, Sky